The two protagonists of this story, Pang Juan and Sun, were once close companions, learning under the same master. As the elder disciple, Pang Juan graduated first and returned to his home state of Wei, where he became a high-ranking general, deeply trusted by the king due to his outstanding abilities. When the time came for Sun to complete his studies, Pang Juan, out of genuine friendship, recommended him to the king of Wei, securing an important position for his junior fellow disciple. At first, it seemed as though the two would work side by side in harmony, continuing their legendary brotherhood. As time passed, Pang Juan realized that Sun was even more talented than himself. Fearing that the king might favor Sun and replace him, his admiration turned into jealousy. Determined to eliminate his rival, Pang Juan instructed someone to falsely accuse Sun of treason by fabricating evidence that he was plotting a rebellion. The king, furious, ordered Sun execution. However, Pang Juan, pretending to be a loyal friend, repeatedly pleaded for his life, but with a sinister motive to extract his military strategic knowledge. He convinced the king to spare Sun only to cripple him by cutting off his feet, ensuring he could never escape. At first, Sun was grateful to Pang Juan, believing he had saved his life. In return, he began writing a book on the art of war, sharing his strategic knowledge with his old friend. However, midway through his writing, he uncovered the truth behind his suffering. Overcome with rage, he soon calmed himself and devised a plan to escape. He feigned madness, laughing and crying unpredictably, even going so far as to eat excrement and drink urine. However, Pang Juan was cautious and suspected that Sun's insanity was merely an act. He tested him multiple times, but Sun endured everything, displaying behavior beyond what a sane person could tolerate. Gradually, Pang Juan let his guard down, and the strict surveillance on Sun was relaxed. Seizing this opportunity, Sun secretly contacted an envoy from his home state of Qi, who was on a diplomatic mission to Wei. The envoy hid Sun inside his carriage, and successfully smuggled him out of Wei. Upon arriving in Qi, Sun was warmly received by the king and prime minister, who recognized his strategic genius and appointed him as a top military advisor. Before long, Pang Juan, now the chief commander of Wei, led a powerful army to invade Shao, achieving multiple victories and advancing toward Handan, Shao's capital. Faced with imminent defeat, Shao sent an urgent request for military assistance from Qi. The king of Qi, unwilling to see an imbalance of power between Wei and Hao, decided to intervene. He called for a war council to discuss their strategy. The prime minister proposed a direct battle against Wei under Handan's city walls. However, Sun disagreed and offered a different approach. If we want to break up the battle without directly engaging in a fierce fight, we must strike where the enemy is weakest yet most vulnerable. Currently, both the elite forces of Wei and Shao are engaged at Handan, leaving only old, weak, and disabled soldiers to guard Wei's homeland. Therefore, instead of aiding Hao directly, we should attack Wei's capital, forcing Pang Juan to withdraw his forces to protect his king. This way, we achieve our strategic goal with minimal cost. The prime minister approved Sun's strategy, and events unfolded exactly as he predicted. The Qi army entered Wei's territory with ease. Sun then split his forces, sending a small detachment toward the capital, while stationing his main army at a key choke point along Wei's retreat route. A few days later, Pang Juan's exhausted troops, rushing back to defend their homeland, fell into Sun's ambush. The Qi forces, rested and well prepared, launched a devastating attack, securing a decisive victory. This battle became legendary as the strategy of besiege Wei to rescue Hao, a classic military tactic still studied today. Years later, Pang Juan, having recovered his strength, led another invasion, this time targeting Han, quickly approaching its capital. As in the past, Han sought Qi's assistance. Once again, the king of Qi held a strategy meeting. Some advised against intervention, while others pushed for immediate action. At this critical moment, Sun Bin proposed a different approach. Han and Wei are locked in intense battle, but neither is fully exhausted. If we send troops now, we will suffer heavy casualties. However, as Wei's offensive intensifies, Han's need for us will grow, forcing them into deeper reliance on Qi. Instead of sending troops immediately, we should assure Han of our support while waiting for both sides to deplete their resources. Only then should we strike to maximize our gains at minimal cost. His advice was accepted, and Qi followed his masterful patience strategy. After Han suffered 5 consecutive defeats, Qi finally launched an offensive not against Wei's army, but directly at Wei's capital, using the same tactic as before. Pang Juan had no choice but to withdraw from Han. This time, the king of Wei placed his full trust in him, granting him command over the entire state's military for a decisive battle against Qi. As Pang Juan led his forces back into Wei's territory in pursuit of the Qi army, Sun Bin devised a psychological trap. He ordered his soldiers to gradually reduce the number of cooking stoves each day. Day 1 100,000 stoves, Day 2 50,000 stoves, Day 3 20,000 stoves. This deceptive tactic convinced Pang Juan that the Qi army was deserting out of fear. "I always knew the soldiers of Qi were cowards," Pang Juan said confidently. "Their morale has collapsed. This is the perfect time to strike and annihilate them." Blinded by arrogance, Pang Juan led his small but elite cavalry in a swift pursuit of the enemy, leaving his main infantry far behind. As he entered Maling, a treacherous valley with a steep cliff on one side and a deep gorge on the other, he noticed a tree trunk glowing in the moonlight. Lighting a torch, he saw words engraved on the bark: "Pang Juan will die beneath this tree." In that instant, Qi archers, hidden in the valley, unleashed a rain of 10,000 arrows. Pang Juan's guards fell one by one, and realizing his fate was sealed, he lamented, "In the end, I have become nothing more than a stepping stone for Sun Bin's glory." With those words, he drew his sword and ended his own life. This became known as the Battle of Maling, and Sun Bin's decreasing stove trick became yet another classic military strategy. From Pang Juan, envy and betrayal lead to downfall. A great leader should learn from those better than them rather than seek to destroy them. From Sun Bin, patience and intelligence triumph over brute force. The tactics of besiege Wei to rescue Hao and decreasing stoves to deceive the enemy remain timeless strategies, applied not only in warfare but also in business and diplomacy.